The camera rested innocently on the bookshelf, its tiny lens capturing the living room of the tastefully decorated brownstone. Olivia Morgan had positioned it that morning with trembling hands, disguising it among her collection of photography books and trinkets from her travels. Now, sitting alone in her car 3 blocks away, she watched the live stream on her tablet, her breath fogging the window as rain pattered against the roof. The house remained empty for hours, until finally, the front door opened. Her husband Malcolm's laugh floated through the speakers, followed by a woman's voice, melodic, light, unfamiliar. They entered the frame, Malcolm's arm wrapped around a slender woman with copper hair cascading down her back. Sabrina, his colleague. His just a friend. Olivia's wedding ring dug into her finger as she clenched the tablet tighter. The pain barely registered as she watched Malcolm guide Sabrina to the couch. Their couch, where they'd spent countless evenings watching movies, planning their future, building what Olivia thought was an unbreakable bond. "Are you sure we're alone?" Sabrina asked, her hand trailing along Malcolm's chest. Malcolm smiled, that crooked smile that had once made Olivia's heart race. "Completely. Olivia's at her conference in Chicago until tomorrow night." Tears blurred Olivia's vision as she watched her husband of 8 years kiss another woman in their home. The tablet slipped from her grasp, clattering to the floor of the car. She didn't need to see more. What Malcolm didn't know was that Olivia had never left for Chicago. And what neither of them realized was that this moment would set in motion a chain of events that would alter their lives forever. Olivia and Malcolm's story had begun like a fairy tale. They'd met during a thunderstorm at a small coffee shop in Boston, both taking shelter from the downpour. Malcolm had offered her his jacket as they made a dash to the subway, and by the time they reached their stop, they'd already planned their first date. Their courtship had been swift but certain. Malcolm, a rising architect with ambition that matched Olivia's own drive as a digital marketing director, proposed after 18 months. Their wedding was intimate but elegant, and their life together seemed charmed. They bought the brownstone in a desirable neighborhood, traveled extensively, and built a circle of friends who envied their partnership. "You two are disgusting," their friend Derek would joke at dinner parties. "No couple should be this perfect after 5 years." But perfection was an illusion that had started cracking 2 years ago. The first sign had been subtle. Malcolm's increased late nights at the architectural firm where he'd recently been made partner. He claimed a major project was consuming his time, and Olivia had believed him, proud of his success and understanding of his dedication. She'd been focused on her own career advancement, recently promoted to executive level at her agency. Then came the business trips that grew more frequent, the texts he'd smile at privately, the sudden password on his phone. Each incident on its own seemed innocent enough, but together they formed a pattern Olivia couldn't ignore. "You're being paranoid," her sister Natalie had said during their weekly video call 3 months ago. "Malcolm adores you." But the distance between them had continued to grow. Their conversations became perfunctory, their intimacy sporadic. Malcolm started spending weekends at the office, returning home with vague explanations and the faint scent of perfume that wasn't Olivia's. It was Derek who first mentioned Sabrina, the new interior designer collaborating with Malcolm's firm. "She's quite striking," he'd said casually at a dinner party Malcolm had been too busy to attend. "Red hair, green eyes. You should see how she looks at your husband." The comment had lodged in Olivia's mind like a splinter, festering until she couldn't ignore it anymore. She'd tried to discuss her concerns with Malcolm, but he'd dismissed them with practiced ease. "Sabrina's a colleague, nothing more," he'd assured her, kissing her forehead. "You know you're the only one for me." She'd wanted to believe him. They'd built a life together, weathered challenges, made plans for the future that included children once their careers stabilized. But the doubt had taken root, and Olivia found herself doing things she never thought she'd do. Checking his email when he left his laptop open, searching his pockets when he was in the shower, driving by his office after hours to see if his car was still there. The final straw had come last week, when Malcolm announced he needed to attend a weekend architectural symposium in Philadelphia. Olivia had called the conference center on a hunch, only to discover no such event was scheduled. That night, she'd found a receipt for an expensive restaurant in town tucked in his wallet, dated from the previous business trip, when he'd claimed to be dining with clients in his hotel room. The next day, she'd purchased the tiny camera, a decision that had made her physically ill with shame. But she needed to know. The uncertainty was destroying her from within. As she watched Malcolm lead Sabrina upstairs on her tablet, out of the camera's view but with intentions unmistakable, Olivia felt something break inside her. But beneath the pain, a cold resolve began to form. Their fairy tale was over. But Olivia would write the ending. 3 days after discovering the affair, Olivia sat across from Malcolm at their dining table, the remains of the elaborate dinner she'd prepared between them. She'd spent the intervening time in a fog of grief and strategic planning, sleeping at her sister's apartment while telling Malcolm she was staying late at work on a critical campaign. Tonight, she'd returned home, greeting Malcolm with a kiss and announcing she wanted to celebrate his recent project completion. He'd seemed surprised but pleased, relaxing into the evening with apparent relief that their recent tension seemed forgotten. "This is delicious," Malcolm said, raising his wine glass in her direction. "I've missed your cooking." "I've missed a lot of things," Olivia replied, her voice steady despite her thundering heart. She reached for the remote control beside her plate and pressed a button. The large television mounted on the dining room wall flickered to life. Malcolm's expression shifted from confusion to horror as the screen displayed footage. From 3 days ago, he and Sabrina entering the house, their intimate exchange clearly visible. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, half rising from his chair. "Please sit," Olivia said calmly. "We're not finished dinner. You were spying on me?" His voice rose, indignation overriding guilt. "Interesting that's your first concern," Olivia observed, taking a deliberate sip of wine. "Not that you brought another woman into our home." "Into our bed." Malcolm's face paled, then flushed. "Turn it off!" "I have more," she continued, pressing another button. The footage changed to different dates, brief clips of Malcolm and Sabrina entering the house on multiple occasions over the past 2 months. "You've been busy." "This is illegal," Malcolm sputtered. "You can't, in our own home?" "My attorney says differently." She hadn't actually consulted an attorney, but the bluff worked. Malcolm sank back into his chair, his arrogance deflating. "It's not what it looks like," he attempted weakly. Olivia laughed, the sound brittle. "Really? That's what you're going with? I thought you were more creative than that." She pressed another button, and the screen went black. The silence between them expanded, filling the room with unspoken accusations and shattered trust. "How long?" Olivia finally asked. Malcolm stared at his plate. 6 months. The confirmation felt like a physical blow, despite her preparation. 6 months. Half a year of lies, of making her doubt her own instincts, of betraying everything they'd built. "Do you love her?" The question escaped before she could stop it, a final twist of the knife in her own heart. Malcolm looked up, his eyes meeting hers for the first time since the footage began. "I don't know, maybe. It started as something physical. But then, spare me the details," Olivia cut in, standing abruptly. She moved to the sideboard and retrieved a manila envelope, tossing it onto the table between them. "Divorce papers. I had them drawn up yesterday." "Olivia, wait." Malcolm pushed the envelope away. "We can work through this. People make mistakes. Couples recover from affairs all the time." "This isn't about the affair, Malcolm." Olivia's voice remained measured, though her hands trembled. "It's about the months of gaslighting, making me think I was crazy for suspecting something. The elaborate lies. Bringing her into our home. I'll do anything," he pleaded. "Therapy, complete transparency, whatever you need." Olivia studied the man she'd loved for nearly a decade, searching for the person she'd married. All she saw was a stranger. "There's something else you should know," she said, reaching for her phone. "I'm not the only one with evidence." She pulled up an email and turned the screen toward him. "Remember Janine from your office? Apparently, she's had concerns about your relationship with Sabrina for months. Professional concerns. About favoritism and project assignments. She's been documenting instances, dates, inappropriate behavior in the workplace. Malcolm's expression shifted from pleading to alarm. You contacted people at my firm? She contacted me, actually. After I reached out to a few colleagues to confirm my suspicions. Olivia put her phone down. The managing partners are receiving a comprehensive report tomorrow morning. You're trying to destroy my career? Malcolm's voice rose in disbelief. Over a personal matter? No, I'm ensuring there are consequences for your choices. The affair was personal. The professional favoritism and misuse of company resources to facilitate it? That's business. Olivia's professional demeanor slipped into place like armor. Your firm has a clear policy on relationships between senior partners and subordinates. You chose to ignore it. Malcolm stared at her, recognition dawning in his eyes. He'd always admired Olivia's strategic mind, her ability to see 10 steps ahead in any situation. Now those same skills were being deployed against him. The divorce papers are fairly generous, Olivia continued. I'm not interested in punishing you financially. I just want this over with as cleanly as possible. And if I don't sign? Malcolm challenged, a final attempt at regaining control. Olivia smiled sadly. Then the video goes to the managing partners along with Janine's report. And our friends. And your parents, who've treated me like a daughter. She leaned forward. I'd rather not do that, Malcolm. Despite everything, I don't want to humiliate you. But I will if you force my hand. The ultimatum hung between them, reshaping the power dynamic that had defined their relationship for months. You've thought of everything, Malcolm said finally, defeat evident in his slumped shoulders. I learned from the best, Olivia replied, standing to clear her plate. You taught me how to architect a perfect structure, and now I'm using that knowledge to dismantle ours. The following evening, Olivia returned home to find Malcolm waiting in the living room, the signed divorce papers on the coffee table between them. His eyes were bloodshot, his usually immaculate appearance disheveled. It's done, he said simply. Olivia nodded, maintaining the composed facade that had carried her through the past 4 days. Inside, she felt hollow, her grief temporarily anesthetized by purpose. Thank you for not dragging this out, she said, placing her purse on the console table. I'll be staying at Natalie's while you pack your things. I'd appreciate if you were out by the weekend. Malcolm stared at her with a mixture of remorse and bewilderment. How are you so calm about this? 8 years, Olivia. 8 years just over. It ended long before I installed that camera, she replied. You just didn't bother to tell me. That's not fair. Malcolm stood, frustration breaking through his contrition. We had problems, yes, but you were always working late, always distracted with your next big campaign. I felt invisible in my own marriage. Olivia's carefully maintained composure cracked. So you decided cheating was the solution? Instead of talking to me? Instead of suggesting counseling? I tried talking. You were never present enough to listen. That's a convenient rewriting of history, Olivia shot back. I scaled back my hours last year because you said you missed our time together. I turned down the London opportunity because you said a long-distance relationship would strain us. I was constantly accommodating your needs while you were sleeping with someone else. The truth of her words hung in the air between them. Malcolm had no rebuttal. Did you tell her? Olivia asked suddenly. Sabrina, does she know it's over? Malcolm's hesitation told her everything. You haven't ended it, Olivia realized, a fresh wave of hurt washing over her. Even now, you're still choosing her. It's complicated, Malcolm said defensively. She's in a vulnerable position at the firm. Olivia laughed bitterly. A position you put her in by abusing your authority. How noble of you to be concerned now. That's not fair. Sabrina and I don't want to hear her name in this house again, Olivia interrupted, her voice dangerously quiet. I don't want to know your justifications or your plans together. What I want is for you to leave. Malcolm stepped toward her, his expression softening. Liv, please. 8 years can't end like this. Let's at least talk about what went wrong, get some closure. Closure? Olivia stepped back, maintaining distance between them. You forfeited the right to closure when you brought another woman into our bed. The only thing I want to close is this conversation. You're being vindictive, Malcolm accused, frustration replacing his conciliatory tone. The work complaint, the video, forcing me out of my own home? Your name isn't even on the deed, Olivia cut in coldly. The brownstone was purchased with my inheritance. Another fact you seem to have conveniently forgotten. Malcolm's face hardened. So this was all a power play? Humiliate me? Threaten my career? Kick me out? All while acting like you're taking the high road? No, this was self-preservation, Olivia countered. And accountability. Something you've clearly never had to face. You're not perfect either, Olivia, Malcolm said bitterly. You've been emotionally checked out for years. Cold, calculating, always 3 steps ahead but never present in the moment. Maybe if you'd been a real partner instead of a strategic planner, I wouldn't have needed someone else. The accusation struck deeper than Olivia expected, touching insecurities she'd harbored throughout their marriage. Had she been too focused on the future to nurture the present? Had her strategic nature made her an inadequate partner? You're right, she admitted quietly, surprising them both. I wasn't perfect, but I was faithful and I was honest. And I deserved the same in return. She straightened her shoulders. We both made mistakes, Malcolm. The difference is, mine didn't involve betraying you in the most intimate way possible. Malcolm's anger deflated, leaving only exhaustion in its wake. What happens now? Now we move on, Olivia said simply. You'll talk to the managing partners tomorrow. Take responsibility for the inappropriate relationship without mentioning the video evidence. I've already told Janine to hold off on her report, pending your conversation with leadership. And my career? That's up to them. And you. Olivia moved toward the staircase. I'm going to pack a bag. I expect you'll be gone when I come back down. Olivia, Malcolm called as she reached the stairs. She paused but didn't turn. For what it's worth, I did love you. I still do in my way. She absorbed the words, feeling their inadequacy. Your way wasn't enough, Malcolm. Not even close. As she climbed the stairs to their bedroom, her bedroom now, Olivia felt the weight of 8 years pressing upon her. But with each step, the burden seemed to lighten, replaced by the unfamiliar but welcome sensation of reclaiming her life. 6 months later, Olivia stood in the transformed living room of the brownstone, surveying the changes she'd made. Gone was the minimalist aesthetic Malcolm had preferred, replaced with rich colors, eclectic art pieces, and comfortable furniture that reflected her own taste. It's coming together beautifully, Derek commented, placing a glass of wine in her hand. Since the divorce, their friendship had deepened, Derek stepping up as a support system when Olivia needed it most. Still feels strange sometimes, Olivia admitted. But better. More authentically me. The doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of the rest of their dinner guests. Natalie entered with her husband Jason, followed by Olivia's new colleagues from the boutique marketing agency she'd joined 3 months ago after leaving her executive position. The place looks amazing, Natalie exclaimed, embracing her sister. Total transformation. That was the goal. Olivia replied with a smile that, for the first time in a long while, reached her eyes. As the evening progressed, filled with laughter and conversation, Olivia found herself observing the gathering from a slight distance, marveling at how much had changed in half a year. The divorce had been finalized quickly, Malcolm offering no resistance after their confrontation. He'd moved out that night as requested, and their subsequent communications had been handled through attorneys. The professional fallout had been significant, but contained. Malcolm had spoken with the managing partners as agreed, admitting to the inappropriate relationship but framing it as a recent development rather than a long-term affair. He'd been removed from Sabrina's projects and placed on probation, a considerably lighter consequence than what might have resulted from Janine's full report. Olivia had heard through mutual connections that Malcolm and Sabrina were still together, having moved into an apartment across town. The knowledge no longer pained her as it once had. Her own professional shift had been deliberate and revitalizing. The executive role she'd occupied for years had provided prestige and financial security, but little fulfillment. The smaller agency allowed her to work directly with clients again, focusing on ethical marketing campaigns for organizations making positive social impacts. "Penny for your thoughts?" Derek asked, joining her by the window as the others debated the merits of various streaming shows in the living room. "Just reflecting," Olivia replied. 6 months ago, I couldn't imagine hosting a dinner party or laughing like this. I thought the pain would be permanent. Yet here you are," Derek observed. "Thriving." "I don't know about thriving," Olivia demurred. "Surviving, definitely. Rebuilding." "Give yourself more credit," Derek insisted. "You handled an impossible situation with grace and came out stronger." "That's no small achievement," Olivia smiled gratefully, recognizing the truth in his words. The journey hadn't been linear or easy. There had been weeks of sleepless nights, moments of crippling self-doubt, days when grief had overwhelmed her carefully constructed composure. She'd finally begun therapy, confronting not only the betrayal, but patterns in her own behavior that had contributed to the relationship's unhealthy dynamic. The doorbell rang again, unexpected at this hour. Excusing herself, Olivia went to answer, puzzled by the interruption. Malcolm stood on her doorstep, looking both familiar and foreign simultaneously. He'd lost weight, and a new beard softened his usually sharp features. "Malcolm," Olivia stated, her surprise evident. "What are you doing here?" "I was in the neighborhood," he began awkwardly. "I saw the lights, the cars outside. I should have called first." "You should have," Olivia agreed, making no move to invite him in. "I've been thinking about you," Malcolm continued. "About us. About everything that happened." Olivia crossed her arms, protective. "We've said everything that needed saying. Have we?" Malcolm challenged gently. "Because I've been in therapy these past few months, and I've realized how much was left unsaid. How many patterns we never addressed." The revelation surprised her. Malcolm had always dismissed therapy as pointless talk. "I'm glad you're getting help," Olivia said carefully. "But I'm not sure what that has to do with me now." Malcolm shifted uncomfortably. "Sabrina and I ended things last month. It wasn't what I thought it was." Olivia absorbed this information with unexpected detachment. Once, this news would have provided bitter satisfaction or vindication. Now, it seemed merely predictable. "I'm sorry to hear that," she said, meaning it. "The thing is," Malcolm continued hesitantly, "the therapy made me see how much damage I caused, how deeply I hurt you, and I wanted to apologize properly, not just the desperate apologies I offered when I got caught." He met her gaze directly. "I betrayed your trust in the worst possible way, Olivia. I lied to you, manipulated you, made you question your own perceptions. There's no excuse for that, and I'm truly sorry." The apology was everything she'd once wanted to hear, delivered too late to matter in the way it once would have. "Thank you for saying that," Olivia replied after a moment. "I appreciate it." Malcolm glanced past her toward the sounds of laughter emanating from within. "You have company." "A dinner party," Olivia confirmed. "Old friends, new colleagues. You seem good," Malcolm observed, a question in his tone. "I am," Olivia said simply, "getting there anyway." An awkward silence stretched between them, the weight of their shared history and divergent futures palpable. "I should go," Malcolm finally said. "I just wanted to say my piece." "I'm glad you did." Olivia hesitated, then added, "I hope the therapy continues to help, Malcolm." "I really do," he nodded, a sad smile touching his lips. "The firm's sending me to the Seattle office next month. Fresh start, away from the rumors." "Seattle's beautiful," Olivia offered. "You always wanted to live on the West Coast." "Funny how things work out," Malcolm replied. "Not how we planned, but maybe how they needed to." As he turned to leave, Olivia felt a final thread between them snap, not painfully, but with the quiet finality of completion. "Malcolm," she called softly. He turned back. "I forgive you. Not for you, but for me. I'm ready to let it go." Surprise and gratitude crossed his features. "Thank you," he said simply. "Goodbye, Olivia." "Goodbye, Malcolm." She closed the door gently and stood for a moment in the entryway, expecting the familiar ache of loss. Instead, she felt an unexpected lightness, as though the last weight she'd been carrying had finally been set down. "Everything okay?" Derek asked, appearing from the living room with concern etched on his face. "Yes," Olivia answered, surprised by the truth of it. "Everything is exactly as it should be." She rejoined her guests, sliding seamlessly back into the warm circle of conversation and connection. As she laughed at Natalie's animated story, Olivia caught her reflection in the mirror across the room. Shoulders relaxed, smile genuine, eyes clear and focused on the present moment. The camera that had captured her husband's betrayal was long gone, the footage deleted after serving its purpose. She no longer needed external validation of her intuition or evidence of others' misconduct. The lens through which she now viewed life was her own, unclouded by deception or doubt. The ending Malcolm had feared, professional humiliation, social ostracism, hadn't materialized. The destruction Olivia had initially contemplated in her darkest moments of hurt had given way to something more powerful: the conscious choice to prioritize her own healing over his punishment. In the end, she hadn't ruined him. She'd simply let him go, along with the version of herself that had been willing to accept less than she deserved. That had been ending enough, clean, complete, and ultimately liberating for them both. As she raised her glass in response to a toast, surrounded by authentic connections and new possibilities, Olivia realized she had crafted something far more satisfying than revenge: a life reclaimed, redesigned, and finally, genuinely her own.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.